we had the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte talking about how Europeans participated in the war against Iran, in the Ramadan war. So he said, based on what he said on Fox News, and 4,000 to 5,000 attacks were, the United States used the American bases in Europe to attack Iran 4,000 to 5,000 times. And he mentioned that more than 500 times they used the bases in Italy, which the Italy government later on came out, the Italian government came out and said that wasn't the case. And I think the problems between Iran and Europeans is getting deeper. We had the snapback sanctions. Right now, their participation, their cooperation in the war against Iran, which they were not part of the war, basically, because they said that we condemn, we were not part of this. We thought that they're helping the United States to defend Israel during the war, or they're giving the intelligence to the United States, the defensive capabilities to improve Israel and Americans. But you see coming out, and the Secretary General of NATO coming out and saying that we have been participating, cooperating with the United States with the attacks on Iran. What does that mean for Iran? And we had the reaction from the spokesperson of the Iranian Foreign Ministry. And what is your understanding of Iran when it comes to Europe?
Well, first of all, it's obvious why he said it. He was busy licking Trump's boots. And so he wanted to say that, Europe is, that NATO is cooperating. You need NATO. We have to be together. Look, they're spending more money on defense. It's all because of you and, the great leader and all that. So that's one aspect of it. But Europe is becoming increasingly irrelevant to Iran. And I mentioned something earlier about the war in Ukraine. The war in Ukraine for Iran has been very important for the last 4 or 5 years. Iran took the political and moral decision to side with the Russians. And there was a lot of debate in Iran. And I was one of the people who said we should support Russia. And over time, I think people have come to agree that this was the right policy. A lot of liberals were opposed to this. It was a pretty harsh debate, actually some very harsh debates on this issue. And in my opinion, the coup and the killing of ethnic Russians and the supporting these neo-Nazis, whatever you argue, however you frame this, NATO does not come out good. And the United States does not come out good in all this. So Iran supported Russia. Also, and another reason was because NATO wanted to expand, and the United States and the West wanted to expand NATO, and that would include Georgia. It was Ukraine and Georgia. And then, of course, right below Georgia is Azerbaijan and Armenia. And Turkey is already NATO. And Erdogan, in the last 20 years, he's never moved to leave NATO. He's a part of NATO. He's a part of the Western camp. And he's done a lot of, he's helped Trump a great deal. Trump has always spoken highly of how he's helped him. So we can't say that Turkey is the government of Turkey is trustworthy. So obviously, it's not in Iran's interest to have NATO expand further. Then you'd have Turkey and then Georgia and then Ukraine, then later on Azerbaijan and Armenia. Not exactly an ideal situation for Iran. So it was in Iran's interest not to support the Russians. And that has, of course, strengthened Iran's hand in this war. And the Iranians and the Russians are basically, the West is carrying out two wars simultaneously, one against Russia and one against Iran and the axis of resistance. And Europe, as a result of all these stupid and foolish policies, has been severely weakened over the past few years. The energy crisis, the deindustrialization, there are many ills. I mean, look at the approval ratings of the Chancellor of Germany, the President of France, and the now resigned Prime Minister of the UK. It's reflective of the situation in broader Europe. It's getting worse and worse. I said this on multiple occasions during the negotiations to Europeans that Europe winter is coming for the Europeans. You cut off your ties with the Russians. You need us, and they scoffed. And now look, their crisis is just growing by the day. The West also is going to have a problem with Russia in the months ahead because they're basically waging war against Russia now, and they want to expand the drone program against Russia, and Russia is going to respond. With Europe basically declaring war on Russia, Russia is going to hit back harder against Europe. So the intensification of that conflict is only going to weaken the West further. The West is overstretched, and also they want to contain China, and good luck with that. They're failing in West Asia. They're emptying their pockets. They're destroying their resources, their ammunition. Europe, of course. Joseph Borrell once said that Europe is a garden, and the rest of the world, meaning us, we're the jungle. And sometimes the garden has to go out to the jungle. So maybe those airstrikes that the Americans were carrying out, those planes went to the garden, got their bombs, flew to the jungle, and killed our kids. That's basically that's what they mean by the garden and the jungle. That our kids deserve to die, like in Lebanon, like in Gaza, and they can live in their garden and enjoy themselves. But that garden is falling apart, Nima. That garden is falling apart. The situation in Germany is not good. The situation across Europe is not good, and it's going to get worse. And with intensification of the war with Russia, it's going to get even worse, because I don't think the Russians are going to carry on with business as usual. In fact, the Russians have been saying that the Iranians have done the right thing. When these countries in the Persian space and bases in their countries and their territory to attack Iran, Iran struck back at them. Why? Because they're complicit. What the Russians are now saying is that the West, which is providing the Ukrainians with all these armaments to attack us, and basically saying, like the British now giving missiles, they are part of the war. Now, perhaps this is so that we should strike them now. That's the argument that's now being made in Russia, that we should strike those assets in Europe that are facilitating death and destruction in Russia. Now, the logic may not be as strong as the logic that Iran has to strike Kuwait and Qatar and these countries from which planes are coming and missiles are coming. But it is a strong logic in that these countries are a part of the war. They are providing missiles, they're providing drones, they have set up factories, and then they're a part of this war, and they're planning to intensify it. So they are going to stir up more trouble with Russia. Russia's definitely going to push back, and they're really in no position to hurt Iran. And the time will come when they need Iran, and Iran will remind them that you helped the United States bomb our kids.
No. I think we talk about the civil war in Lebanon, but the same case is happening in Yemen as well. And with the new communications between Iran and Saudi Arabia, do you think that they're going to facilitate, they're going to somehow cooperate? In the case of Yemen, we have three players, let's put it this way. We have two players in the region, the Saudi Arabia and UAE. We have Yemeni people and Ansarullah. And with the new communications between Iran and Saudi Arabia, maybe Qatar, is that going to be easier for Iran to communicate to help the position of Ansarullah in Yemen?
Nima, once someone told me, well, what if the Americans bring in if the Americans are able to create lots of drones and start using drones against Iran, like the drones that Iran has been using today against U.S. assets in Bahrain. And I told that person that, look, the targets that Iran can destroy in the Persian Gulf region are much greater than the targets that the U.S. drones can destroy in Iran. And the implications for the United States and the world economy are far greater, right? Let's go to Yemen. The Saudis, if they want to get into conflict with Yemen, they can bomb Yemen and kill more kids, as they did. They starved them, and Yemen today has a powerful missile and drone capability. They can destroy Saudi infrastructure very swiftly. They can bring an end to its exports, oil exports, its petrochemical exports. What can the Saudis do? They can kill kids. Yes, that's even worse. But they cannot do enormous damage to the Yemeni economy, because the Yemeni economy is already devastated. Doesn't have the petrochemical plants and the refineries and the oil production facilities that Saudi Arabia has. So if there is going to be conflict, the loser is the one that has the most to lose. And so obviously the smart thing for the Saudis to do would be to take Yemen seriously. Find a solution.
Yeah. I think, Professor, I don't know if you saw the latest report of the UN on what has happened, in Gaza, in the West Bank. And here is part of that report.
Report carried out by a committee of independent experts says that Israeli troops deliberately shot at Palestinian children during the 2.5-year war in Gaza and carried out genocide and war crimes.
There can be no doubt in anyone who reads today's report that every international legal norm has been violated by the actions of the Israeli authorities towards Palestinian children, and they need to be held accountable.
These are allegations that Israel has long denied, but this report focuses specifically on the treatment of Palestinian children in Gaza. It says that 21,000 Palestinian children died as a direct result of the hostilities. Thousands more were injured, including 10,000 suffering hearing loss, 5,000 with hearing loss so severe they can no longer hear bomb warnings. The report says that Gaza has the highest incidence of child amputations anywhere in the world, some of those amputations being carried out without anesthetic. It says that when Israel bombs large residential areas with powerful munitions, children more often die, 7 times to 1, because of the smaller surface area of their bodies, thinner skin, lighter weight, which means they can be thrown across the room. It is very, very grim reading.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah, like they couldn't have written this report 2.5 years ago. They couldn't have written this report 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. Now that there's a genocide going on in Lebanon, the kids in Lebanon, they don't get thrown across the room. They don't lose their life. I mean, it's just amazing that after the whole world, I mean, I don't think a single person who's viewing your program has learned anything from this report, because they've been following this for 2.5 years, some literally pulling their hairs out, people having difficulty controlling their emotions. You wake up in the morning seeing, slaughter on your social media feed, and going to bed at night seeing the same thing. It's been going on for almost 3 years, and now the United Nations finally puts out, and it was interesting that Reuters and the BBC both put this up, and they use the word genocide. Every time I've been on the GPBC, I can't say for sure, but probably every time, because I try to make a point of saying it. Whenever I go on the BBC, I try to make a point of saying genocide in Israel. Whatever the topic is, I try to get to genocide in Israel. I think every time the host of the show on the BBC and Sky News 2 would immediately come out and say, well, that is for the lawyers to say, and there are, that these are claims that are like, they try to defend the Israeli regime. That's all I've ever experienced, as far as I recall. I mean, they don't invite me on mainstream media anymore, very rarely. During the past few years, it gets less and less. Even during this war, very rare, except for Piers Morgan and maybe a couple more others. No one has invited me anymore. It used to be more, but the point is that we all knew this, but the UN wouldn't say it.
Yeah. I think what's important for many people and for Palestinian people, for Gazans, for the West Bank, is what is the outcome of what is happening geopolitically in the region, because the outcome is much more important for the future, for the people.
Well, I'm sure the EU is going to impose massive sanctions on Israel, don't you think? And the United States are going to start imposing huge sanctions on their industry, on tourism. Nothing is going to happen.
Nothing. No
But
sanctions.
what is going to happen? Yeah, of course, that's a joke. I mean, they are a part of this genocide. They are complicit in every death that we've seen in this region. Every single death they're complicit in. Every single one by one. However, people have woken up. Europeans, North Americans, Africans, Asians, people have woken up. And this is something that is irreversible. Young Jews, I mean, look at the Democratic Party's elections, the primaries in New York, in Jewish neighborhoods. Wipeout for Zionism, Jewish neighborhoods. Why? Because these people have a sense of humanity, a sense of decency. Saying, we're not a part of this. And the Zionists, they're scared. So it's not because of the UN. The UN is pushed to do this because everyone sees what's happening. UN, the American officials, the US Vice President sometimes now says things, Trump, others are now speaking out critically, not because they've seen the light and suddenly they're humane. Of course not. It's because the world is changing and they have no option. Now, how far will this go? How fast will this go? That's we'll see. I don't want to be naive, but the changes are enormous. But no thanks to the UN.